Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shrotra Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shrotra Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridāsa Ṭhākura ki. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिर गोवर्धन की. श्री मायापुर धाम की. श्री वृंदावन धाम की. श्री न्यू गोवर्धन धाम की. गंगा माई की. यमुना माई की. भक्ति देवी की. तुलसी देवी की. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की. समवेत भक्त वृंद की. गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we'll be speaking about avoiding the mistakes in the process of devotional service, and we'll be discussing about the two slokas in Bhagavad Gita. It's from 2nd chapter and the text is 62. If you can repeat after me, you can. A majority of the books, it will be on page 128. Yeah, just 1 minute, let me adjust the volume.
Second chapter 62 shloka.
Yeah, 2nd chapter 62. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Vishyan Punsaha
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate
Kamat Krodho Vijayate
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Dhayato Vishyan Punsaha
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate.
Kamat Krodho Vijayate.
Anyone wants to give a try?
No?
You want to say?
Okay. Dhyayate Vishyan Punsaha
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Sangaste Shupajayate
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Kamat Krodho Vijayate Kamat Krodho Vijayate.
You can go.
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Kamat Krodho Vijayate
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Mataji, you can read.
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangasteshu Pajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha
Kamat Krodho Vijayate.
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. So the translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Purport: one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahmā, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Pārvatī agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kārtikeya was born. When Haridāsa Ṭhākura was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Māyā-devī, but Haridāsa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Śrī Yāmunācārya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna conscious, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. So the Yāmunācārya reference that is coming in this purport is from the previous verse purport, and we'll go to the next verse also. The 62 and 63 are like companion verses. You can repeat after me. Krodāt bhavati sammohaha
Krodāt bhavati sammoha
sammohat smriti vibhramaha
sammohat smriti vibhramaha
smriti bhramsat buddhinaso
smriti bhramsat buddhinasho
buddhinasat pranasyati.
buddhinasat pranasyanti.
Translation: from anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When the memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Purport: Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastunaha mumukshibhi parityago vairagyam phalgu katyate. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called phalgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute being impersonal cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So, after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down due to not having support in devotional service. I will chant Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Śrī Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Śrī Visakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can you?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, can you check that both the green mic and the brown mic are in the eco-safe margin in the audio room?
Green and red light should be same.
In the
eco-safe margin, the level. Yeah, just put all the microphones on the eco-safe marking, then it should be fine. There should not be any echo if you put them in the eco-safe marking. All the mics should be on the eco-safe markings.
Hare Krishna. Is this okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, it's much better, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Again, as His Holiness Badrinath Swami Maharaj would say, you could be in many other places in San Diego, but you chose to be here. So, I welcome you to the satsang program of San Diego Hare Krishna Temple. So, last time when I have spoken during the satsang class, I have said verses, the previous verses from 59 to 61 or so, where when Arjuna was inquiring Krishna about what are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna,
Prabhu, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think the microphones are still not on the eco-safe margin.
Okay, bro, let me check.
Yeah, just check the microphones on the eco-safe because I'm hearing a lot of echoes here.
Is this okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, this is much better. Now there is no echo. Sorry
Okay.
to interrupt you, Prabhu.
Yeah, okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So, so this is in the second chapter. So Arjuna is inquiring Krishna, what are the qualities of Sthita Prajna? So Krishna, like he asks Sthita Prajna ka bhasha, how he speaks and how he sits and how he walks and like so on, like that, like the qualities of Sthita Prajna Arjuna inquires. And Krishna in the previous verses, like in the third question, like how he is situated. So Krishna tells about how when you are exposed to the sense, like the sense objects, like a Sthita Prajnata, the transcendentalist who is in the state of Sthita Prajna, will withdraw his limbs as the tortoise withdraws the limbs. So like whenever the sense comes into the sense objects, the way the transcendentalist, or who is a great devotee you can think, will withdraw his limbs as a tortoise withdraw his limbs, like that. So in that process of saying about how to control senses and so on, so in the text 60, so Krishna tells the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So, and then Krishna tells how with the higher taste one can control senses and so on and so forth. And here in these two verses that we have recited, Krishna tells if you do not control senses, like how actually a fall down happens in the stage of a sadhaka. So here if you see, this is like one of my favorite verses, because this is actually the science of Krishna consciousness. Like what happens if you do not control the senses? What happens when you control them? And even when a person of the high discrimination in the sense of discrimination between good and bad, can be subjected to this fall down. So the stages of fall down is given as, so dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate. So in first, when you are contemplating about the objects of senses, then sangasteshu upajayate, he develops attachment. And sangat sanjayate kamaha, with that attachment the lust develops, and kamat krodho vijayate, and from that lust anger arises. Then the next verse is krodat bhavati sammohaha. So with this developed anger, a complete delusion arises, and sammohat smriti vibhramaha, from that delusion bewilderment of memory arises. And when sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramsat buddhinaso, when memory is bewildered, the intelligence is lost, and buddhinasat pranasyati. And when the intelligence is lost, one falls down again into this material pool. So, in order, the way I remember this verse, like from the story of, like you might have all known about Ramayana. In Ramayana, there is this story when Ram, Sita and Lakshman, Ram, Lakshman and Sita goes to the forest. So what happens, there is this Surpanaka who is a sister of Ravana. So she comes and like she is roaming around the forest. She keeps looking at the who is passing by, torturing them. That's how she makes a living basically. And what happens once she looks at like Ram and gets attracted, and she has this desire to enjoy Ram, and she tries to approach Ram. But she knows, like once I think she approaches Ram, Ram sends her away, and then she takes the form of Sita and she tries to approach Ram again. But Ram knows who is this in the form of the disguise, that which is a Shurpanaka, a demon. And then he sends her, like he tells her, hey, I'm a married guy, I am like a gurhastha, he acts as if he's like a chaste husband, he is chaste husband, but he tells her that he is not interested, but he points to the Lakshmana and show to Surpanaka that, hey Surpanaka, there is a guy like my brother, he is away from his wife, and you can approach him, he is also very beautiful, he is also a prince, and so on and so forth. Then Surpanaka goes and approaches Lakshmana, and Lakshmana cuts Surpanaka's nose and ears and sends back. So, there are many lessons from this story. I will complete the story and come back once again here. So then what Surpanaka, this is a very interesting thing in Ramayana, and you can actually see how Shastras, one Shastra can explain what's going on in other Puranas and so on. Then Surpanaka goes to Ravana and she doesn't tell like, hey Ravana, I tried to approach these people and they cut my nose and ears and sent me back. She will not tell that in Ramayana. So the way she says, because if she tells so, then Ravana will immediately scold that why do you keep meddling in other people's business and why don't you mind your own business and so on like that. The way she tells is, you can say exactly the same, how Ravana happens, like the form that Ravana takes will be described in these verses. So she will go to the hall of Ravana and falls on his, there is a full court and she falls and starts crying. Then Ravana asks, hey, my dear sister, what happened to you? Why are you bleeding through your nose and ears? And what's happening? Then Surpanaka says that, hey, I saw this beautiful princess. She is Sita. And then she starts describing each body part of Sita to Ravana, like how Sita's eyes looks like, how her nose look like, how her different limbs look like she describes how beautiful is Sita. And then Ravana keeps listening to those the description of Surpanaka, and then she tells a lie saying that I tried to get this woman for you, for your enjoyment, oh my dear brother, but there are these princes who came in between of my mission of bringing a beautiful girl to you, a beautiful woman to you, and then they have interrupted, and then they cut my nose and ears and they tried to kill me. But actually Ravana is not listening to all those what has happened. If you see the stage of Ravana's consciousness, when he is hearing about the beauty of Sita, already demonic character Ravana was contemplating on the sense objects. So this is what dhyayato vishayan pumsaha is. When you are dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, when you are contemplating on the sense objects, then sangasteshu pajayate. Then Ravana develops the sense of attachment on the thought that he has to enjoy Sita. So the process of to enjoy Sita, now what is obstacle for that thought is having Ram and Lakshman. So sangat sanjayate kamaha. With that attachment on the thought of enjoying the sense object, he developed a huge lust, and kamat krodho vijayate. So he immediately developed anger because for his object of for his purpose of enjoying Sita, Ram and Lakshman are trying to be in middle of that. Then what happened? Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. So then what immediately Ravana does, without telling his ministers, without consulting anyone about his idiotic plan of abducting Sita, he will go and consult another demon, Maricha, in Ramayana. So he goes and finds Maricha. If you know, I think you all heard about Ramayana. In the beginning, when Ramayana begins, Vishwamitra takes Ram and Lakshman from the court of Dasaratha, and he tries to take them, because they are Kshatriya boys, to guard their yajna. So that time, Maricha and Subahu tries to attack that yajna kunda, and Ram kills Subahu, but he hits Maricha, and Maricha will be thrown away, some 1,000 yojanas or some metric will be given in Ramayana. The state in which Maricha is there in Ramayana is very interesting, because Ravana goes to Maricha and tells him, hey Maricha, I have a mission for you. I have decided to abduct Sita from forest and to bring her to my palace, and you need to distract Ram and Lakshman. Then actually Maricha will be wearing a dress of a sadhu. He becomes so transformed because he becomes a devotee by constantly in the fear of Ram. it will be very nice. Like if you read Ramayana, it will be there. Like Maricha will be speaking about 7 or 8 verses of how great Ram is and how idiotic is your plan. He will be scolding at Ravana. Like Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha Sadhu Satyaparakramaha. Like he will keep saying like, oh, what do you think of Ram? He's not like an ordinary Kshatriya king. He's an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So on and so forth it goes. But what can you what can we see from this story is that when Ravana comes and approaches Maricha, even Maricha tries to remind him of what is good and what is bad. But because his eyes are completely blinded by the lust of the thought of enjoying Sita, Kurodat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramsat buddhinaso, buddhinasat pranasyati. So he is well learned. He knows Shastras, what Shastras tell, how do you approach woman and all. But he completely lost that memory, and because he is in the delusion that he has to, enjoy Sita, and because of that he lost the memory of what is good and what is bad. That discrimination he lost. And you know what he did? He makes a plan and then he abducts Sita and brings back. There, like many ministers will try to tell him, he will not listen. His own brother will try to tell him, he will not listen. This is exactly what happens when the intelligence is lost. And buddhinasat pranasyati. So from this, like the character of Ravana, how it happened is clearly said by Krishna. And this is not only case with a demon with Ravana. If you see, there is another story that I wanted to tell. I'll tell very fast, we have less time today. So there is another story in Bhagavatam of the Brahman Ajamila. You might have known about Ajamila's story. So Ajamila is this very nice guy, like very small, like a young Brahmana who is studying in a nice Gurukul. He is very obedient to his parents. He is well versed in Shastras. He knows all the Shruti mantras from the Vedas. He is very obedient guy. So one day, he is very obedient to his parents. He does service to his parents. He does service to his spiritual master. He tries to worship daily, and so on and so forth. But what happens is, one day he will be sent to forest by his father to bring some wood or some ingredients for his Nitya Yajna Kruti or something like that. And Ajamila goes to forest. But what happens in the forest is, Ajamila tries to, he'll be doing his work, but he comes across this very fourth class man and a drunken woman who is like a prostitute. They are embracing each other and are in, having some illicit sexual relationships. And he will be behind a tree and observing that. So, very chaste Brahmana like Ajamila, when he immediately sees this scene, it disturbs him. In Bhagavatam it is said that he is immediately pierced with Cupid's arrows. And this is exactly where the thought of enjoying that prostitute comes to the mind of Ajamila. He is actually married with a very chaste Brahmana girl, like who is very obedient to her in-laws, and he tries to arrange for Ajamila's worships and so on and so forth. But the thought of enjoying that prostitute will not be gone in Ajamila's brain. So he tries to come back home, he tries to forget. Actually it is said that he tries to remember the Shruti mantras. He tries to remember, what is the instruction now? He doesn't, nothing comes to his mind because he is already overcome with lust. And this process is already there. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa, Sangasteshu Bhajayate. He already developed the attachment. And so what happens is, Ajamila comes back and he introduces that prostitute as a servant maid in the house, and he tries to include her in many of the house activities like the chores. But at some times and all, he tries to come near her, enjoy her, and this kind of illicit relationships he establishes with that prostitute. But because of this karma, what happens is he forgets and neglects the duty of a son to take care of his parents. and he tries to he tries to please that prostitute woman, and he tries to get some necklaces, some jewelry, but he is out of money because he is a pious Brahmana boy. Then he goes into the other habits of gambling, intoxication, all the other regulative principles he starts breaking up. And he tries to steal, he tries to gamble, and he earns money by unsanctioned by Vedas or the scriptures, and he tries to bring and tries to satisfy this prostitute. In this process, he neglects his parents, and he neglects his wife, and he actually disowns his wife, and he pushes her out of the house, and he lives in that house only with that prostitute woman. And he tries to enjoy her. He will have sexual intercourses. He is in the process of begetting more and more children, completely losing what is his sense of duty. And Hare Krishna, bro. And he completely gives up his Brahmanical duty of studying Shastras and engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. And he is completely lost in this relationship with this prostitute. And then over the time, when he is 88 years old, he is having a very small kid. You can understand the level of consciousness that Ajamila is. He completely wasted his life, and he is in abominable condition, but he names his last kid as Narayana. So when he is on his deathbed, he is surrounded by, he's overcome with the diseases, and he is on his deathbed, and that time, Yamadutas come to take him because he led a complete process of a sinful life. And when Yamadutas come and they speak about all what he is what he has been doing his whole life, and what all the sinful activities he did, the Yamadutas they are giving his report card. Oh, he did this, he did that, so on and so forth. And then but when he saw Yamadutas, they are very ghastly. He is very scared of them. And out of the fear, he calls his younger kid Narayana, like that he calls, out of the fear. Then, when Yamadutas are coming and discussing about his sinful life, what he led, then two very beautiful creatures, very pure, Vishnudutas come there. So they are actually sent by Narayana because he uttered the holy name of Lord. So, there will be a discussion, there will be a story. This is a beautiful pastime, and there is a book I read when I am doing my bachelor's in NIT Warangal in India. That book is called A Second Chance. It's a very beautiful book. It has this story of Ajamila, and you can what happens afterwards is Yamadutas tries to come near Ajamila. They couldn't come, and they couldn't take his life. And then Vishnudutas explain Yamadutas, saying that no matter that he led his whole life in sinful activity, but he uttered the holy name of Lord, and that's why. And also he uttered in such a state that out of fear he called out for Narayana, like that he called. So he did an offenseless chanting there, and all his sinful activities are nullified, and you cannot take him anymore. So there will be a subsequent story where the Yamadutas goes back to the abode of Yamadharmaraja, and they ask Yamadharmaraja, oh, there are these two entities who came and told that we do not have right to take his body anymore. And then Lord Yama tells actually the glories of holy name, and he tells that anyone who chants holy name of Krishna one time in his life, you do not have a right to go near them. So then what happens subsequently in the story is Ajamila realizes that the Vishnudutas goes, Yamadutas go, and then he has this gift by Krishna, you can say, that he has this opportunity to hear this discussion between Yamadutas and Vishnudutas, and then already having been done some spiritual activity in his life, in his early young boyhood, that Bhaktilata Bij is still there in him. Then immediately he gives up all the family relationships. He goes back to Haridwar. He gives up all that sinful life. He takes on the spiritual clothes. He becomes a pure devotee by constantly chanting with whatever the age he has. I think 1 year or so. Like he constantly chants the name of Lord Narayan, and he tries to engage in the service of devotees to whoever the visiting devotees in the Haridwar, or like the devotees who are around that dham. He serves them. So like he perfects in the last stage of his life. Then what happens is after some time, when he's about to leave body in Haridwar, the same Vishnudutas who came at that time, like they come in the Vaikuntha Viman, you can say, and then take back Ajamila. So the story of the Ajamila says that no matter what abominable activities that one person is in, but once who takes up to the process of Krishna consciousness, the process of chanting is so pure that you can imagine how sinful life that Ajamila led, but even then he is given that second chance. That's why the book is called Second Chance. And so even from the Ajamila story, even though he is well versed with the Vedas and other Shastras and Slokas and so on and so forth, the one mistake he did is, as soon as when he saw embracing of these like a fourth class man and that of a prostitute, he should have taken the shelter of holy name, which could have come in the rescue of Ajamila, but he ignored it. And he tries to remember what are the Vedas are saying, what is Shruti is saying, and so on and so forth. And he is subjected to this process of degradation. So as a sadhaka, Prabhupada says in the purport, like there is a description between the Kārtikeyas born by Lord Shiva. Like you can see even in the beginning of the creation, Lord Brahmā also subjected by lust. Because he is in the mode of passion of creation of the universe, he tries to engage in an intercourse with his daughter like Saraswati, and he has to leave his body and takes up another Brahma form. It will be there in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam. So what I am saying is that as a sadhaka, this can occur at any point in our life. So the way to overcome this is from the story of Haridāsa Ṭhākura that is given as an example. So Haridāsa Ṭhākura is constantly chanting the holy name of Lord, and once Māyā-devī, to test him, comes in the form of a beautiful girl, and she tries to expose various parts of the body, and she tries to tempt Haridāsa Ṭhākura to come and engage in sexual intercourse with her. But how Haridāsa Ṭhākura says is that, okay, let me chant these few rounds, and I'll come back to you, he'll say. And then he keeps chanting. And Haridāsa Ṭhākura chants for about 192 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. And he keeps chanting and so on. And then at that time, like when the day finishes, the next day begins, he starts another 192 rounds, and then he goes on chanting for another 12 hours or so. So like that, it goes on for a process of like 2-3 days, and then the Māyā-devī gets converted and she becomes devotee, and she shaves her head. She starts sitting and chanting, that prostitute starts chanting Mahamantra, and Haridāsa Ṭhākura leaves that cave and goes on. Here the difference between the example of even the demigods are subjected to the fall down, but one sincere devotee who is taken shelter in the chanting the holy name of Lord, he will be saved from this vulnerable path of falling down when he is subjected to this like the lust, anger, greed, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
It is very entertaining and interesting, combining the concepts from Gita and Ramayana.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I have one comment.
Yeah, yes, Prabhu, sure.
I don't understand this Mahadeva's example, because Mahadeva and Pārvatī's marriage was consummated.
Yes, actually.
To give birth to Kārtikeya.
Yeah.
The request of devotees.
Yes.
At the instruction of Vishnu, so that Kārtikeya can be killed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, and not only that, from this intercourse itself, Vanaras also come and so on and so forth.
I don't understand
Yeah.
how this example fits into.
So,
From
Yeah. So Lord.
devotee of the highest order.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. So here Lord Shiva is not subjected to the downfall and to the pranasyati phase that.
This example doesn't fit here because it was done at the
Very appropriate.
request of all the Vishnu and actually Vishnu was in his marriage.
Yeah.
And all the devatas went there, requested him. He
Yeah.
came out from his satis. He was in deep meditation.
Yeah.
On the satis.
So-
he was brought out from that.
Example, Surpanakha is good.
And Surpanakha
Surpanakha is good.
Ravan example
Example is good.
Yeah.
Not of Shiva.
But this
Lord Shiva.
is good, but
Yeah.
this one.
So-
I don't see how it fits in.
Well, the thing is, Lord Shiva is a dhira. Like Prabhupada writes, Lord Shiva is such a dhira that even when he is being served by thousands of damsels, he will be in complete meditation unto the Supreme Lord. So the example here, how it fits is that, the thing is with Pārvatī, like how the Kārtikeya is born, this is a Leela, of course, and
Also, the marriage actually took place, the whole thing was conducted
yeah.
by the Saptarshis and all the demigods and all the gods. And
Yes.
everybody was
Yes.
to lead him to the birth of Kārtikeya.
Actually, there is
Kārtikeya can be killed.
that is true, but there is so much to this story that is not written in here. The thing is, when Lord Shiva is in this great penance and like Kārtikeya to be born, actually, even before that, Vanaras will be born. If you, this is the story of the Kārtikeya how he is born and all will be there in Ramayana in the beginning itself. This is narrated by actually Vishwamitra to Rama and Lakshmana. The thing is, actually Shiva is not supposed to have intercourse with Pārvatī. The demigods will be so afraid of Lord Shiva and Lord Pārvatī's intercourse that they are afraid that a Mahabhuta will be formed and they cannot control it anymore. So there are so many intricacies in this story where that's why Lord Shiva, like even before this intercourse itself, Lord Shiva will be engaging in 100 years of intercourse with Pārvatī. Then all the demigods will come and interrupt that intercourse. And then, but Shiva tells that my semen has already moved from its place, and then they collect that semen, and then it will be given to Bhudevi, and then the Vanaras and all they will be born. So there are many places, there are many more details to the story. Again, why Kārtikeya will be born, because they realize that Ṭhākura is very powerful, and then they come back. So the story of Lord Shiva is, it's not said in the context of how he is fall down completely in by subjected to karma and so on and so forth. But when he is in deep meditation, he was disturbed in a sense by Pārvatī. This is Leela.
Wasn't it intended?
It is a pastime of Lord, and of course it will not happen without happening and all. But in the same situation, the reason why the story is given is that Māyā-devī is Mahamaya is nothing but Yogamaya, who is goddess Pārvatī itself. And the same Pārvatī, when she is coming and tempting Haridāsa Ṭhākura, how a pure devotee will react to it, and how he takes shelter is given in this contrast.
But Māyā-devī is also
Pure devotee, yes. Vaishnavanam yatha shambho, yeah. It's just in the context of that example we should take, just until that.
I just wanted to
Yeah. And also another.
He is counted as one of the main devotees of Lord Krishna.
Yes, yeah. Vaishnavanam yatha shambho, it is said. Yeah. And yes, this is a tricky example, yeah. Haridāsa Ṭhākura.
Prabhu, I have a question. So you said that Pārvatī came for Haridāsa Ṭhākura, but Pārvatī is she never leaves Lord Shiva. How can she come to Haridāsa Ṭhākura?
Well,
Maybe it's some expansion or something like that?
So, actually, that is what Durga means. So, even though she is eternal consort of Lord Shiva, Durgam means fortress. So, the Jiva has this desire to enjoy independent of Krishna. That's why this whole setting of Kuntha, what is called as the material world creation happened. That we are given like approximately same form with 2 hands, 2 legs of Krishna, and we want to enjoy these things. So, but goddess Pārvatī takes the form of, Mahamaya, and then with her trident, Trisul, right? With the three, that is the Tāpatraya. Actually, in the second verse and the subsequent verses it comes, how she will be having that trident and be like, putting this kind of rehabilitation center, you can say, that the jivas are subjected to this Tāpatraya. Traya is, Adi-daivika, Adi-bhautika, Adhyatmika klesas. And, then the jiva gets he gets that understanding that over the lifetimes, that, my constitutional position is eternal servant of Krishna. And then he tries to go back from this Kunta to the Vaikuntha. That's the ultimate destination. So, Mahamaya is actually the one who makes all this universe, the material objects, the 5 Panchabhutas, and our body, which is made of these. All these engineering and all, Pārvatī and Siva does that. That's why they are called Vande Pārvatī Parameswara. They are called as the mother and father of the universes. They are doing on the order of Hari. And in this example of how Māyā-devī comes to Haridāsa Ṭhākura, usually to glorify devotees, to glorify pure devotees. If Māyā-devī would not have come, we would not have discussed this pastime of Haridāsa Ṭhākura and how to take shelter of holy name of Krishna. Right. So, yes, Māyā-devī knows that the Haridāsa Ṭhākura will not, subjugate, but she puts this test to glorify pure devotees. We should take in such a way. And it is also said that the same Durga, when she is punishing, materialists, she comes in the form of Mahamaya, but when she is coming to the devotees, she becomes Yogamaya. And she actually facilitates our process of reaching towards Krishna. Yeah, that's all, bro. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So we'll have our last session now at 8:50.